I suck at Jiu-Jitsu. How do I suck less at Jiu-Jitsu?
I guess to suck less.
Ladies and gentlemen, the diabolical leader of the Headnot Squad.
All right, Justin and Justin, how are you guys doing?
Fabulous.
Great.
Could be confusing. I should probably call you both by your last names.
Okay.
To be fair, I never call either of you Justin.
I was gonna say that seems weird when you say it.
Yeah.
Honestly.
And that's probably because we've trained together for so long that we had to switch to not even nicknames, but just last names. You know,
Huff has a nickname. Call him Huff and stuff.
call him Huff and stuff.
Yeah,
that one's stuck.
That's
Yeah.
also his last name too, though. You know,
That's true.
You know, they called him Juice in high school.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, it's not because he was on the juice. It was actually because he also murdered his wife, like O.J. Simpson.
Yeah.
Nicole Brown Simpson. Yep. Ron Goldman.
The glove
You guys-
didn't fit.
Do you guys think he did it?
O.J.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not Huff.
I feel. Yeah. I feel pretty strongly. Do you not think he did it?
No, I think he did it.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, I'm just saying, we could have had a whole thing. We know Chris Benoit didn't kill his family. So
I don't-
perhaps OJ.
I don't know. Last week on the podcast, I had a guy bring up Chris Benoit, and it was the last time that he has been brought up since you had been on the show.
Well, here we are, everyone.
Yeah.
Back to Chris Benoit.
Do you actually believe that Chris Benoit didn't kill his?
Okay, so
family?
there's just, no, not really. But
Okay.
there are some things that make you kind of wonder, right?
Like the Wikipedia page,
No, well, yeah, the Wikipedia page, the text to Chavo.
which was
Right.
what?
It was like, hey, the dogs are back here in the backyard. I locked them up. Come let them out because my family's dead. That's weird.
That feels like a very murdery text to send, if I'm being honest.
I think that there's something fishy. I should have done my research because
Yeah.
I didn't research any of this. But I feel like there's something fishy with the time frame. And then the WWF or WWE put out hey, Chris Benoit's dead before it was reported that Chris Benoit was dead, before they found him.
And that was true. And there was that was like the Wikipedia page too. His Wikipedia page got updated the day before that it was discovered that he murdered his family.
Yeah.
Being yeah, he died.
Murdered his family.
He's dead. I don't know, man. Who do you think did it?
I don't know. Vince McMahon's done some horrendous shit.
Yeah. Stuff coming out. Yeah.
Literally.
Was this? Well, okay, look. I'm not saying that what Vince McMahon did wasn't wrong.
You're a Vince McMahon defender now?
I'm not saying I'm a Vince McMahon defender. He was definitely doing some bad stuff. Definitely in a position of power doing some horrible things. But was it that surprising that he was doing those things when on camera each Monday night he was getting in front of all the 14-year-olds in America and telling you that he was doing those things?
I thought he was a moral man.
Yeah.
Did you? You thought that?
Any billionaire is a moral man, dude.
That is true. That is true. That they are good people. And that is the more money you have, the better of a person you are, no doubt.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hands down.
But on the same note, yes, OJ definitely was guilty. Anytime you write a book called "If I Did It, This Is How I Would Do It," that's a sign of guilt. It's
Really an admission of guilt.
It really is. It really is. But yeah, Juice. That's what they called Huff in school.
Yeah.
Why did they call you Juice? Because you were on steroids?
No, so that was a speculation later on. But so actually it started when I was like 6 months. Because my parents could not keep stocked up on juice. Because I was just going through it left and right. That's the only thing I would have all day long. And so it started out as juicer, which sounds weird, but then they just changed over to juice and it's stuck. And literally every time I go back to my hometown, everyone just calls me Juice.
Really?
Yeah.
That was your license plate for a long time.
Very douchebaggy. Yeah. It was Juice 90. Is what it
Juice
was.
90?
Yeah. Yeah. And then when I started lifting more and getting more in the lifting a lot, and it was you're on steroids, aren't you? And I'm like, maybe.
That's why they call me Juice. I like that. Hey, Jiu-Jitsu athletes, Josh here. Let's talk gear. No, I'm not talking about steroids. Chill out. Specifically, we're talking about backpacks. I recently switched to Datsusara hemp backpacks, and I cannot tell you guys enough, it has been a game changer. These aren't your typical gym bags. Datsusara bags are crafted from an ultra durable hemp, which is perfect for intense daily grind of a jiu-jitsu athlete. They feature specialized compartments for everything: your gi, your rash guard, your shoes, and even electronics like a laptop. Plus, they even include a reusable secondary bag for your sweaty, disgusting jiu-jitsu gear that you have after you get done training, keeping everything else fresh and clean. Thanks to their antimicrobial hemp fabric, Datsusara bags do not hold odor, meaning your bag is going to stay fresh after countless of sweaty sessions. No more replacing a worn out backpack every few months. This one is built for the long haul. You head over to dsgear.com and upgrade your gear right now. You can use promo code ISUCK at checkout and get 10% off your entire order. Datsusara hemp backpacks, made for athletes who demand the best. So we just off camera had just gotten to the bottom of how long we've been training together, almost 15 years. Do you guys have any first memory of training with each other or just interacting with each other at the Hit Squad for the first time? You know, I know it was, you know, we were children back then. It was a long time ago, but any recollection of each other?
For sure. Yeah.
Of course.
What do you got?
Yeah.
What was the...
So I will say this. I don't know if I even told you this, Justin, but when I started jiu-jitsu, it was against like really big dudes, right? So like when I started, I was getting smashed left and right. You were like the first smaller guy I went against. And I'm thinking to myself too, like I come from a background of like football and lifting a lot. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to crush this dude. He's like, you're like 115 pounds. And so I go with him and just triangle chokes me like 3 or 4 times in a round. And I'm like, holy hell, like jiu-jitsu works. Like that's, yeah. So that was my first impression with you. And then Josh, you were completely different because you were like, you were the quiet kid, but yet you'd roll with, I mean, you didn't, no offense, you didn't look intimidating at the time.
Wasn't the most physically imposing
But
person.
I'd roll with you and I'm like, what the heck? Like this sucks. Like you were really good. And so, yeah, that was my first impression with you guys.
My first impression of Kichler was getting triangled by Kichler.
Yeah.
That's a true story.
Yeah.
That was like, you had been training for not very long either. And I was starting to get pretty good. And yeah,
I had one move, man.
And, you know, it's funny too, because when's the last time you triangled somebody?
Somebody good? It's been a long time. I can't remember. I don't really find myself in the position to triangle anybody now.
It used to be literally your only move. First tournament that you did, how many triangles did you hit?
2.
2?
It was the first move I ever hit. Like, I remember talking to Kyle, and he was like, yeah, he's got to pick a move, and Kyle's move was the triangle. So I was like, I'm just going to do that. That looks easy. And I think it was like 6 months in, I started hitting him, and then I never stopped until like 2 years ago.
Yeah, it sucks.
Whenever I'm like, I'm not doing that anymore because I'm sick of getting smashed on bottom. I'm going to get fat and lay on top of people.
I like that. And that was way back when, like, the intro to jiu-jitsu for everybody is they would, like, look you up and down and be like, hey, you're kind of skinny and you have long legs. Triangle.
That's it.
And you're like, okay, well, I guess that's one of the 3 moves that exists, and I guess that's the one I'll focus on.
Yeah, they're like, hey, if you just grab a collar and pull him down, pull one arm out, you got it. It worked out. I think that was something different that I did too. Is I used to go like knee to chest up over the shoulder instead of stuff on the hand there. I think that confused a lot of people.
Well, the thing is too, like I would get in side control on you, and you would stuff my head down into the triangle, like an invert triangle.
Yeah.
That was so frustrating.
Yeah. Thanks, Braulio Estima.
Yeah, it was so frustrating because like literally I thought I was like, okay, I got this dude beat. I got, side control and everything else, and then you'd stuff it in there. And it'd be so frustrating.
Hey man, everybody used to just leave their hand in there. So I just started framing on their neck and pushing it down, throwing the other leg over.
Yeah, you kept me up at night.
Yeah,
thanks.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. If it's any consolation, my first memory of you, like I beat you up, I guess, allegedly. I don't remember it. But I remember just being like, this is such a nice guy. I'm like, this guy is not going to fit in here. Like, there's
Yeah.
no way this guy's going to survive. He's way too nice. And then look at him now.
It is funny that you say that because I always remember thinking that too. Like, man, he is exceptionally kind. You know, he's like
he's
so
smiling.
happy to be here. I like this guy.
Yeah. Just
You
a
know?
big smile on his face. He's like, hey, guys, what's going on? I'm just like, this dude's pretty chill. I like this guy. It's a lot different than everybody else here who hates me. So
Yeah, they really did bully you. We got into that a lot last time you were on the podcast, but I mean, it was so excessive that I dare say that most stories that you have on the Hit Squad from the Hit Squad days are giant MMA fighters bullying you because you were,
Yeah.
you know, a
just-
skinny kid.
they're just bullying me, and then like I'm beating them in live rounds. So I'm like, why are you still bullying me? I don't understand.
I remember when you choked pro belt dude unconscious.
Cortez.
Yeah,
we told that story on the last
Man,
one. One of the
yeah.
most legendary Kichler stories, one of the most legendary Hit Squad stories there were.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
And it was the year that he messed with you that made it so legendary. You know, it was the year before that he would call you Pee Wee Herman and McLovin every day. And, you know, would just kind of dog you for no reason.
Satisfying, man.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I think that might have been my peak. After that, it was just kind of all like downhill.
How old were you then?
17, 18?
Hmm.
I think it was 17.
Life comes at you quick, man. It goes, you were like, man, I will always be choking these professional fighters unconscious. You know?
Yeah. I feel like if a bad one like that were to roam in, I could still choke him unconscious. It would just be different circumstances.
Yeah, I agree. And when you're a black belt and you choke somebody unconscious, technically you're a bully.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you stop being, you're not like, when you're a blue belt, skinny teenager, it's like you're the hero. You know, like this kid finally did it. But then, just like always happens with blue belt, skinny teenagers in the gym, there's this one point where it switches from them being the good guy to them become the villain.
Yeah, you
100%.
become the villain real
Yeah.
quick. For sure.
It's like my kid the other day, right? He's walking down the aisle, like he's 3, and so he's looking at this like old lady who's coming towards him. She's smiling ear to ear because he's adorable, and he just says, "I got a penis." Now, if I were to do that, I would, they would call the police on me. They're like, "What's wrong with this guy? He's 34 years old, and he has a penis."
But you got to wonder, where did Baby Huff learn that?
All right. Well, I'm not the greatest influence. All right. So at daycare and stuff, let's just say he gets in trouble quite a bit with what he says.
Really?
Yeah.
What are some of the top lines from Huff Jr.?
Oh, definitely. He spat off the F word before. He has said damn. When he has to go poop, he doesn't say poop. He says I gotta take a dump.
Okay.
Yeah.
Honestly, out of all the things that he could call pooping, a dump is not bad.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. But apparently it's not appropriate.
Yeah.
I don't know.
My son, 18 months old, he just poops his pants. He doesn't even tell you. I would much rather him tell me he has to take a dump. You know? You know what's funny? After, I think it was like in the middle of St. Louis Open, I had never seen Baby Huff like up and walking around. And he was kind of standing off by himself. He wasn't standing next to Lauren. So it wasn't like one of those things that I could just see him and be like, oh, that's Huff's kid. But I saw him and I was like, oh, that's Huff's kid. That looks like a 2 foot tall version of Huff. He looks like Juice, bro.
T-Rex arms.
He does. He does.
Dude's gonna have the like most nasty ankle lock in 10 counties for sure.
Oh, dude, I'm sure in the daycare that he's snapping little kids' ankles already. You know?
Guillotines.
I have taught him a guillotine. Yeah.
terrifying.
And he does it every single time. I'm getting him dressed in the morning. He wraps on a chin strap. I'm like, dude.
Good job, buddy.
Yeah.
Does your wife ever complain that he guillotines her?
Not a whole lot. Honestly, she's pretty supportive in that way. Yeah. So, I mean, she kind of embraces it for the most part. Unless he goes up behind her and tries to choke her. He'll do that sometimes too. But, I mean, it's a proud dad moment, more or less.
Yeah,
How-
it's just a menace, dude.
How are you teaching him these moves? Like, is it like you're sitting down and you're like, I'm going to show you some jujitsu, or is it just this constant, you guys are just always wrestling?
Oh, it's play, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. We literally have like a schedule. So like after dinner, we'll watch a little TV, and then it's wrestling, followed by books, and then throw them in the bed and go to sleep. And so we wrestle every day. Yeah, and we just play around. Yeah.
I like it. What are the shows you guys are watching now?
So we've been watching How to Train Your Dragon. That's a solid movie, by the way.
Never seen it.
Yeah, it's really good. You know, honestly, all these kids movies, like they're really good.
Yeah.
They're really good. The real life action Lion King, Mufasa.
Oh, really?
That one that came out, that's really good. So yeah, it's actually really good. Actually.
Those are solid.
Yeah.
Matthew's big on the movie Luca. Have you seen Luca?
I have not.
They're sea monsters. It's a Disney Pixar movie. It's like the only movie that he really likes. And yeah, we watched Luca about 10,000 times now.
Yeah.
You know, it's not my favorite movie anymore.
Yeah.
You know?
He was really into Moana for a while, and I'm just like, my God. I'd literally like wake up in the middle of the night, like in my mind, like thinking of the songs and everything. It'd drive me crazy.
Yeah, while rolling a lot, I'll have, you know, this is the way that daddy rides, daddy. Like always have something, some nursery rhyme or something playing in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. You know, there was a time where every kid was watching Frozen, and all of the dads, you could get them all furious at the gym if you started playing the Frozen soundtrack.
Yeah. On the opposite end, though, too, so he loves the Spider-Man soundtrack. It's like the cartoon one. Mm-hmm. And
The Into the Spider-Verse one?
not that one. So there's one, it's like Spidey and Friends, I think it is. And it's like they got like these big heads and everything. So he likes that soundtrack. Literally, I caught myself driving around running errands listening to that soundtrack. I mean, it just, catches on.
It's taking it too far, dude. You guys need to like have these kids watch Top Gun or something.
That's a good idea. I mean, my son smokes cigarettes, so you know he's getting tough.
You gotta
know?
show them like military propaganda. Black Hawk Down, something like that.
I
you
dropped
know?
mine down the chimney to clean it the other day.
Solid.
Yeah, I like that. What are some other things I should show my son?
I don't know, man. So what you got? Top Gun, probably Lethal Weapon.
That's
I
a
know
good
that
one.
Die Hard will be a Christmas.
He has seen Die Hard.
time.
He said, but I mean, he wasn't really as into it as I was during Christmas. I'm hoping next year.
You guys should buy like I don't know, like improvised explosive military handbooks right off the bat for the
He
kids.
can't read, bro.
Not yet. He will though.
Okay.
Put it in his Easter basket.
Yep, and start to read it for him. Like, this is how you make an IED.
Exactly. Make sure you cover it with rocks so the Humvee doesn't see it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, I'll tell him that. I'll text my wife right now and let her know. Hey,
I feel like our kids are going to end up on like an FBI list right now.
nah,
already.
dude.
If they aren't, you're not doing it right. If they don't end up on an FBI list, dude.
Yeah, your kid. That's the least of your worries list wise. If he's
gonna
running
get on a
around
different list.
Yeah,
If
if he's
he's running around
telling
telling people
women
he has a
about his
penis.
penis all
Yeah.
the time, bro. You know, like that just seems like a learned behavior. You know,
I was gonna ask where did he learn? Hello, old lady. I have a penis.
Yeah, we're at Walmart right now. Guess what? Guess what I have? That's wild.
There's certain ways I got Lauren. You know, what can I say? You know.
Oh no. Okay. Let's stop talking about baby Huff's penis. I think that's
We're all gonna end up on a list.
yeah, that's one of the worst things that we could spend our time talking about on this podcast. Do you guys have any first tournament memories? I don't know, honestly, in 15 years of training together, I don't know if all three of us have ever competed at the same tournament.
I don't think so.
Right? I mean, I definitely have individual memories with both of you guys competing multiple times, but I don't remember any specific time that the three of us competed at a tournament, right?
I don't think so. I think Huff started really kind of competing once I dropped off.
That was the
He was my
replacement, Justin.
replacement. We had to get Justin to replace Justin.
Yep.
Yeah, I think like that was probably my peak of competing was around then. Yeah.
What is the highlight of your guys' competition careers? Top thing that stands out for you?
I was the first guy to win an IBJJF medal.
That's
in
true.
a 3-man division.
Yeah, that's true. IBGF Chicago Open, the first one that they
one.
did. Ooh, that's a solid claim to fame right there.
That was a good one.
Top dog.
Yeah, did you know that, Bryce? Every time you failed to win an IBJJF Chicago Open, that Justin did it 15 years ago?
Yeah, it's been a long time. There were two guys in the division. One was like a little Hispanic fella. He was not very good. And then the other guy had one stripe on his white belt. And the next weekend, I got my blue belt. And I fought the first guy, and I beat him like 18-0. and then I fought the second guy, and he got me in an arm bar, and I was like, oh man, this kind of sucks. I should just tap, and I didn't, and I got out, and I beat him 24-0.
All
My
right.
favorite part of the story is I didn't have a coach. It was just me and 2 guys from the gym. Drove up there. They were supposed to compete. One decided he didn't want to because of like anxiety, and then the other one missed weight like terribly. So it was just me, and Jeff Seraphin coached me from the stands. And he's like, hey, are you Kyle's guy? I was like, yeah. And he's like, all right, I'm going to coach you, but I won't be down here. I'll be up there with my guys. So he's like up in the stands yelling, and eventually it's like the 4th time I passed this dude's guard, and he's just like, you got it. I'm just going to stop.
You're
He's
doing
like,
great.
He's like, you got it, man. Like, just keep doing that. That's my highlight. My favorite tournament moment was whenever the dude who was like a wizard got beat up by that German guy, and we coached him.
Oh, that was a great tournament. When you and I don't know, was Kyle there?
Yeah, Kyle fought that super fight against the Lloyd Irvin guy.
Yeah, Jimmy Harbison, something like that.
Yeah, that dude was good.
He was super good.
Jiu-Jitsu.
He did.
Yeah.
We didn't even know who he was at the time, and boy, did we know after. He was very good. But for whatever reason, we were coaching a lot that day. I remember that. And we had 2 different guys that were MMA fighters at the Hit Squad that we were in charge of coaching. One of them didn't speak much English at all.
Barely any.
Yeah, he was, what was his last? Was
Hines.
it Hines? His name was Hines. And
We
so
called him Ketchup.
Gotcha. And we were and I mean, he was a super athlete in the white belt divisions. You know, with a professional, he was a professional MMA fighter.
Yeah.
No gi experience ever.
And like stocky.
I
Dude
rem-
was built like a T-Rex.
I
Like
remem-
he was like Huff on like mini. He
He
was
was-
like micro bullies, but
He
Huff.
was real juice tough, you know. I remember him coming off the mat after his first gi match. He never wore a gi in his life. We have to tie his belt for him. He just thrashes some old man. He's in like 30 and up division. Old man's 50, 60 years old. Gets beat down. The German guy runs back to us and he goes, I like the gi. I like the gi. He's like, you can grab anything. I'm like, yeah, that's the point, man.
If I remember correct, the dude, the old guy, he was like really old. Like I don't mean like 50. He was like in his 60s, maybe 70s, had a big long wizard beard. And he thought that he had some kind of like powers. Like he like thought he had some kind of like earth magic. And if I remember right, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure Hines just grabbed the dude and ragdolled him to the ground, and the dude quit. Like he like
Yes.
just like tapped because I think he hurt his shoulder. Because he like grabbed him and was just like fucking yank. And,
Yeah.
Dude hit the ground hard, and like I was dying laughing. And like I felt bad for the guy, but it was one of those things where you should have known what you were getting into, I guess.
Right.
That doesn't happen in tournaments near as much as it used to, where you would go with somebody in like, I mean, white and even in blue belt divisions, but you would go with people that literally didn't do jiu-jitsu. They literally were like, they were karate blue belts, and they would be like, hey, there's a martial arts tournament. We're going to go. And all their coach would tell them is like, hey, I know jiu-jitsu pretty well. One rule is you don't tap to chokes. You know, you only tap to arm locks and leg locks. And so they would just be unconscious karate blue belts laid out on the mat constantly.
You saw that at Naga a ton.
Yeah.
You know, like some Aikido guy. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Jumps in, he's just getting choked out.
He's doing a kata to warm up.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait a second, that's not jiu-jitsu. This guy could be in trouble.
Yeah. I think that's the main thing that they always tell them is like, hey, we know that you don't know what to do, but don't ever pull guard because that's for pussies. And we know that you don't know how to wrestle, so just grab a gi and hang on. Mm-hmm. Dude, they would just get ragdolled. Like it was actually pretty fun to watch most of the time. I wish it happened more.
You know, the last time it happened, it wasn't that long ago, and I shouldn't give too much detail into this story because it's rough to when you really know the context of the story. But our old pal Nick Sanders had a match at black belt with a guy who was, I mean, he was a fake black belt, which is one thing, but he was special, and Nick didn't know that. Okay, and so Nick beat him down pretty badly, and then afterwards decided to make a Facebook post about how ridiculous it was that there was a fake black belt. And I had to message him and be like, hey, bro, I need to tell you something. And he's like, oh my gosh, I should take this post down. And the post is viral at the time.
Yeah.
And so, it still happens on occasion, It still happens on occasion.
That's a little different.
It is different.
That's a little different. I remember being at that tournament specifically because that dude with the poofy hair, the kid, came up to you and he was talking to you. I'm like, where do you know that guy from? And you're like, oh, I fought that guy one time. He asked me what my earth power was.
He did. I think he asked me what my element was.
That's it.
Uh-huh.
And then he's like, that's that dude's coach. And then we coach an actual active professional MMA fighter.
That guy's playing Pokemon,
Dude.
Like,
Yeah.
What are you, water, grass?
Yeah, he said, what is your element? Yeah. And I said, what? And he said, I'm fire with a little bit of steel. And I was like, is that even an element? Like, it doesn't sound right. Like, are we talking about like the periodic table of elements? Like, what do we mean here? And I'll tell you this, fire and steel does nothing to triangle choke.
No.
It is triangle, like in the rock, paper, scissors game of elements, triangle choke beats fire and steel every time. What's up, guys? Josh here. Today, I want to talk directly to my fellow jiu-jitsu school owners out there. If you are anything like me, staying organized isn't always the easiest thing, especially with all of the moving parts around running a jiu-jitsu school. Enter Kicksite.com. Kicksite doesn't just handle your billing or your attendance, it's also an amazing tool for growing your school. From managing leads and scheduling trials to converting potential students into active members, Kicksite's got your back. It streamlines the entire process, turning your jiu-jitsu school into a well-oiled machine. I have been using Kicksite for about 8 years now, and honestly, it's transformed the way that my academy operates, just with way less stress and way more growth. That is the Kicksite difference. If you want to see this in action for yourself, click the link in the description of this episode to grab a free 30-day trial exclusively for I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show listeners. There's literally nothing to lose and so much peace of mind to gain. Kicksite.com, helping you run your academy so your academy doesn't run you. Like, Huff, did you give us your tournament highlights?
Well, I would say probably the most fun I've ever had at a tournament. That one that comes to mind is the one we went to Alabama.
Oh, that was super cool.
That was a fun trip.
What was that called?
I honestly can't remember. It was so weird though, because like I had a super fight, and then after that I went into a tournament.
Yes.
And so just the structure of that was it was weird but fun. So I was prepping for a super fight. Obviously I had to study this guy. I beat him, and then like 30 minutes later, it was like a purple belt tournament. Jump into that. I remember I had like a 15-minute match, which it was exhausting but a blast. And then the next match, it was like 10 seconds because I got a guy in a straight ankle lock and he screamed.
Yeah.
And and then I lost in the finals. But it was a blast though.
And that was like a super unique format because everybody had a super fight. Yeah. It was as if it was a super fight show. But then as soon as the super fight show ended, everybody went into one division and had a tournament. Yeah. And so, that was super fun. That was in like Auburn, wasn't it? Something like that?
I think so. Yeah.
And that was you, Huebner, and Robert all competed at that one.
Yeah.
That was a really fun one to go and coach. It's always nice to coach and, not deal with the anxiety, not have to warm up, not have to cut weight. That's always it's a great feel, especially when your guys win, because you get this credit as if you did something, but you really just showed up.
Yeah.
And just yelled things that they should already know.
Yeah. Get him.
Play your game.
Do good.
Play your game right now.
So, not St. Louis Open?
St. Louis Open was fun. It's hard because like it was just one match. But at the same time...
But it's a gold medal, man.
It is a gold medal. And I think it was kind of nice because at that time, I just entered Fatherhood. My training was just kind of like up and down. I'm going against a guy who trains full-time. Like, it was kind of intimidating, nonetheless. And so winning that was that was meaningful, I guess, for the most part. Yeah.
I was proud of you.
Yeah, I was
That was your first black belt tournament, right?
No.
Second,
no.
third, fifth?
Third.
third. That's
Yeah. But the first one I actually won. Like, won my match and everything.
Yeah. That's what I thought. Because I remember
Yeah.
being like, oh, Huff belongs now.
Yeah. It was nice, too, because it was like, I don't know, it was like a stalemate. I mean, he wouldn't open up his guard. And then at the last minute, I did a stack pass, flipped him over, got an advantage. And then, time ran out. So it was kind of a sweet way to win that one.
That's solid.
And it was, I was proud of him too. I think I might have even shed a tear. I know I hugged him. I gave him a big, I think I got first hug before his wife got a hug coming off the
did.
mat.
I just sent him a Facebook message. You don't have to be like crazy about
Oh,
it.
dude.
He just sent me a winky
Yeah,
face.
we kissed on the lips afterwards. Dude. I was so proud of him. I just wanted to really express how excited I was. You know what I mean?
Chapstick out of the money bag.
No, I went dry. I had been coaching all day. My breath was bad. No gum. And that shows that you love somebody.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. And I take him as he is.
Yeah, if you can't love him as worst, you're not going to take him as worst.
Yeah, that was perfect. How much has training changed for you guys since, I mean, when we're younger, Huff, you were in school, but you were not going to school.
Right.
Or Kichler, you were not going to school. Huff, you were in school, and we were able to train a lot and, really dedicate a ton of time to jiu-jitsu. And then, you grow up. Yeah. How different is training now? And really, on top of that, what is training for you guys compared to when you were a kid?
Yeah, definitely more quality over quantity for sure. More meaningful roles, more intentional and stuff. So more or less focusing on certain things for sure. Whereas before, it's you just go in and you're just let's scrap. We're not even trying to work on anything. It was just let's just try to kill each other as much as possible. But now it is a little more intentional. And then also too, I would say training for longevity. Mm-hmm. Our knees hurt, our shoulders hurt, our ribs hurt. Mm-hmm. And so it's you realize, okay, this isn't going to be absolutely forever. I want to train as long as your dad's training. Mm-hmm. And so it's let's roll smart. Let's not roll with the 280-pound new white belt that's a spaz. So yeah, it's more meaningful rolls.
Yeah, I guess mine's probably really about the same. I'm a little bit dumber than Huff though. So
intentional, being intentional. That's tough.
I have a hard time with it. And I think a lot of it is just that's how I've always been. I always like to go train hard. I like to do hard rounds. I definitely pick my training partners a little bit different. But a lot of it is as you get good at jiu-jitsu too, as long as you're not worried about losing a round to someone. As long as you're not worried about I hope that this white belt doesn't tap me. You can really goof off once you're pretty good at jiu-jitsu. So I do that a lot too. I'll just I don't know, there'll be a month where I'm everybody's going to get my back. I don't care. Doesn't matter. And that saves my body a little bit. But mostly, I don't know, it takes one time of me being oh, that guy almost passed my guard, and then I'm just going 100%. So as long as my body holds up, I'm probably just going to keep doing that. It's pretty much the same way I've always rolled. Until I'm getting a hip replacement, and I'm all right, guys, I got to go slow this month. It's probably not really going to change.
Yeah.
That month off you have to take after your hip replacement, If
that.
Yeah.
For 3 days. I'll be in there all right, guys, I'm going to still try to fight everybody. But that's just how I am. I don't know. It's not the best way. It's certainly not what I would want my students to do or, my friends. Or if I was going to give someone advice, I'd be yeah, you guys should take time off. You guys should listen to your body. I just don't really do it.
That makes sense. That's I mean I preach those things.
Yeah. Same.
Tell people oh yeah, if something hurts, rest. But if we're really being honest with the three of us at this table, we probably still all three struggle with that.
100%.
That for instance, let's say there was a really tough purple belt and they started to put it on you. Mm-hmm. How are you going to handle that?
Oh yeah, it's go time, cowabunga,
right?
Yeah.
And the question is, will that ever get out of us? Will that ever not be there?
If it hasn't been beaten out of me yet by now, I don't think anything's gonna do it. I mean, I don't know, man. Sometimes you go do a tournament and you get hurt and you have to keep fighting through the rounds. I I blew up my LCL one time and had to do a match against Cyborg Mikey for 45 minutes. Like, you're not going to stop.
I mean,
probably.
that's probably part of it, right? I mean, even to get to black belt, you kind of have to be a bit stubborn, right? Like
Stupid.
persistent,
Stupid.
Yeah. And so it's like, yeah, when those situations happen, I mean, yeah, you gotta go. You know, there was a blue belt at Revive here the other night, and he's a young dude. He's like maybe 17, 18 years old, and he's starting to get good. And I was letting him get ahead of me a little bit, and then he was starting to put the pressure on. I'm like, oh, I can't have this happen. I can't have this happen. And so, like, I went up for a single, and it was just boom, and let's go, you know. But, you know, I gave him a little bit, you know, to progress and, through the round. But, yeah, it's
That's
just
the
part
way
of it.
You got to kind of feel it out.
Yeah.
Like, if we're rolling and I feel, safe, like, oh, okay, well, I can let this guy get ahead. He can put me in a bad position. It's someone I trust. I'm rolling with you. I'm not going to let you. You're going to put me in a bad position. But let's say that, I'm really good. I'm better than Huff somehow. I'm going to let that happen. It's not going to be a big deal to me. Oh, no, he's got my back. He's got me inside control. I'll even let you get, like, a Kimura because I'm not going to rip my shoulder apart. If it's a, blue belt, even probably like a purple belt, I'm probably not going to let them get that part. I'm going to let them get to a bad position.
Yeah.
But as soon as they start, like, showing me, oh, I could get hurt, probably going to start wailing on you a little bit.
I dare say that if you get anything on me at all, you earned it. I'm not letting you have it at all. Even if you're a day one white belt, if you get past my feet and my guard, you earned that,
There's definitely a scale to it, too, because you can look at a guy and you'll be like, I can't let this guy have an inch. I got to go as hard as I can right from the bat. But a lot of times, like, I don't know, we had a guy come in the other night that it was like his first class, and he's like, all right, man, it's my first class. I don't know what's going on. And I'm like, yeah, mine too, Don't worry about it. I'm brand new. I got no clue what's going on. And he's like, that's not what I heard. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. So, like, I'll let that dude get places. He's kind of like a smaller guy. He's not going to just start yanking submissions. We have had some serious, like, wrestling athletes. We have, like, a blue or a white belt that's, like, 16, that's, like, 230 pounds. I don't let those dudes get me in, like, front headlock, side control, stuff like that.
Yeah,
I fight pretty hard to not end up there.
Yeah, I guess that's more of what I mean is anyone who's going to bring any sort of intensity, I never let get anywhere that they could hurt me. You know what I mean? Like I hear so many people, especially as you get older, they have that are, good, like that are black belts or whatever. They'll be like, oh yeah, I got hurt. I was going with this white belt and he had me in side control and he just wrenched something. He cross-faced me super hard or whatever. And I'm like, brother, why did he have you in side control? Like, oh, I was letting him work. I'm like, dude, that's not your responsibility. He should have let him work from open guard, dude. Yeah. That's where you protect yourself, And so, yeah, I guess that's just my mentality on it.
I'm not letting someone really work unless they've been training for like a year, probably.
Yeah.
I'm sure not going to be like, hey, go ahead and lock up this full-on armbar.
Yeah.
I remember I was training with a white belt. He's maybe like a 2-3 white belt, and I was letting him work some K guard, and I let him get into me like a leg lock entanglement and stuff, and I got out of it, I think, and then go to pass him and stuff, and then round ends, and I remember Nick Sanders came up to me and was like, why did you let him get into K guard? And I was just like, oh, I shouldn't. He goes, do not let him do that. I know he's a white belt, but don't let him do that. I was no taken.
Yeah. Yes, coach. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on Nick's side on this one, man.
Yeah.
I'm not on Nick's side when he beat up the special black belt, but I'm on his side when it comes to like, yeah, dude, you gotta earn this.
Yeah.
Like let the blue belt, you pass the blue belt and hold him in side control, not your boy. That just sounds dangerous. I don't want that.
I have a question about the special black belt.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Like, could you tell? Or like
I would say no. I knew because
incognito.
Yes, I knew because of a situation. One of my black belts had had a match with him before and told me that when I was coaching, or afterwards when I was coaching, kill him, and then my black belt was like, hey man, just so you know, I wasn't going super hard in that match. And then he told me why, and I was like, Oh, but I didn't post about it on Facebook.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't make an Instagram post about it.
So whenever we say fake black belt, clarify that for me.
I mean, okay, yeah. And it was a twofold thing. He wasn't training at a real jiu-jitsu school. So that's why I say fake black belt, okay? I'm not saying that he was a fake black belt because he was special. I'm saying that he was a fake black belt because he trained at somewhere that gave out fake black belts. They have multiple fake black belts.
You're giving the impression that this guy showed up in like a Halloween Spirits costume.
I would say that Nick definitely couldn't tell. It definitely wasn't on him for the situation that occurred.
Okay.
If I would have been, I wasn't there coaching that match because I didn't need to be. And so had I have been a better friend, I would have given him that heads up. But I was coaching other people, and so we could blame me for some of this.
I'm not going to blame you for it. I blame whoever gave that guy a black belt.
Okay,
really.
thank you.
I think it's awesome. And, as much as everyone likes to be inclusive, that's cool. Everyone should have a chance. But maybe make sure it's real. And then maybe don't send the dude to the wolves in a black belt division.
Yeah, that's
messed up.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that is probably a great argument is, it's on the coach.
As a segue, speaking of special needs.
Okay.
Do you remember that dude who came in to the gym, the hit squad with a harem of women?
Came in with a harem of women.
Yeah, it was just like a guy. He was like, I don't do jiu-jitsu. He's like some martial arts master. And he said like 15... 20-year-old women with him.
I feel like I should remember this. Tell me more.
Well, that's really the story.
You said 15 women came in there with him?
Well, there were some dudes too, but it was like it was like a cult type situation.
Okay, okay, yes. And they had like family members there watching them, and then we beat all of them up.
Yes.
Okay, I remember that.
Dude walks in, big, fat, just clearly like, I don't do anything other than watch TV and tell these people that I know martial arts. And he has like 15, like I said, they're like 20, 25-year-old women. And then there were a bunch of kids.
I was going to say there were kids.
There were a bunch of kids. There were like some probably all his kids with the 25-year-old woman. And then there were just like some teenagers and stuff, dude. We killed them.
And they all had, we were probably white belts, maybe. I think we were white belts.
Yeah, we hadn't been training that long.
And they all had colored belts on, like different colors, black belts, brown belts, they had all kinds.
Dude had a red belt on, if I remember right.
And Kyle, and like this was back in the day that this kind of stuff would happen. That like you would get people that you used to have to prove that jiu-jitsu worked. Mm-hmm. You really don't have to do that anymore, almost ever. It's like a very special occasion when somebody comes in and is like, oh, jiu-jitsu doesn't work. Yeah. And then it usually takes 5 minutes and they're like, oh, it works. But that group was absolutely, I specifically remember I was rolling with one of the kids that was about my age, maybe a little older. He was a brown belt or something like that. And I'm a 1-2 stripe white belt. And I keep triangling this kid. And he isn't letting me choke him unconscious, which is usually the sacred martial arts text would tell them. But he's tapping. And I hit him with a triangle at one point, and his mom / aunt / whatever is sitting on the sidelines watching, and I can still hear her voice in my head. She goes, he's got him in the triangle. And I'm like, okay, well, at least they know what that is. Like, at least they're aware. Kid had a mullet with like some cool stripes cut into the side of his head before it was ironic to do that. Yeah. Before it was like this funny, ironic thing that people would do. It was like, no, cut his hair into a mullet. He's a fighter now, And
I left out the part where they all definitely train in a trailer park dojo.
Yeah. I mean, they did. Yeah. They absolutely did. I do remember that.
Had names like Tammy Lynn.
Tammy Lynn.
There were some great groups of people that came through the hit squad that you got to, beat up on, And it was like knowing Kyle now. Any of Kyle's students now would be like, no. Any of the Watson martial arts team now would be like, no. There's no way Kyle would ever encourage you to beat up this group of women and children. But back then we were teenagers and we were carrying the flag for jiu-jitsu just like Grandmaster Ilya would have wanted. And so we had no choice but to I beat up their coach, bro.
Yeah, me too.
Their coach tried to knee bar me. And I was like, okay, he knows something. And I got out of the knee bar, never having felt a knee bar before in my life, and took his back and choked him. And he was like, your jiu-jitsu's unbelievable, man.
Be part of my family.
Yeah. You can have 4 wives.
Oh, you can pick from Tammy Lynn, Teresa, Ginger, or Cinnamon. Anyone you want. Free of charge.
Yeah, that was a wild crew. That was one of the wildest crews that ever came through. But there were still groups of people that you would roll with, and you would be like, this dad would bring in his kid that they train in his garage, and like, yeah, my son has 4 unconfirmed kills, and he wants to train jujitsu with your guys today. Yeah. And then, I mean, there came a point where it was like, all right, guys, we're like all stretching, high-fiving each other, like, all right, we got a live one. Yeah. Let's take him out.
Definitely the only time where you can say, like, I'm a shark. That was it. Yeah. Everybody's like, we smell blood. This kid plays hockey. This kid plays ice hockey. He's dead, dude. Ain't got no skates here, buddy.
That is true. Like, I feel like in the earlier days, the mat enforcer mentality was definitely more prevalent than it is now.
And it was more necessary than it is now.
You don't really need it now. I feel like the coach kind of takes that in. Like if somebody's getting beat up, one of the coaches kind of steps in. Back then, Kyle would sick us on people instead.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would. Yeah.
And I mean, Kyle would sick us on a lot of, like we're making these jokes about like the rando people, but it would usually be a lot of professional fighters that were pretty decently tough at fighting. Mm-hmm. But back then you didn't have to do jiu-jitsu to be a UFC fighter.
Yeah.
You would be getting submitted by teenagers that weren't like, it's not like we were really good teenagers like there are now. Yeah, it was like we were just blue belts at jiu-jitsu, and we would be beating down these guys that like fight in the UFC.
I watched this guy on the UFC like pay-per-view last weekend, and now he's in I have him make guillotine.
Yeah. And he's got 70 pounds on you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
This dude sucks.
Yeah,
what's going on?
It was so bizarre to see. And it's like, looking back, it's like, dude, if you just had a little jiu-jitsu, you could have gone so much further as a fighter.
A little bit. If you can't beat a 120-pound 17-year-old, why are you in the UFC?
That's a great question.
Doesn't make any sense.
Because you could throw haymakers, dude, and you were tough.
Yeah. Well, Charles Oliveira was coming up in that time.
That's
true. In most of their weight class. So if they can't beat me, they aren't going to beat him.
That's very true. That's very true. What's up, guys? Josh here. Want to supercharge your understanding of jiu-jitsu concepts? My buddies over at BJJ Mental Models have teamed up with the legendary Rob Bernacki to bring you Jiu-Jitsu for Imbeciles, the audio course. This is not your average instructional. It is a comprehensive 7-part journey through essential concepts like alignment, base, posture, structure, core mechanics, and Rob's unique scorecard method. It's everything you need to build a solid conceptual foundation. Whether you're totally new, or you're exploring conceptual thinking for the first time, or you just need a quick refresher. And the best part about this is that because you are an I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show listeners, you are going to get access to this course absolutely free. Just head over to bjjmentalmodels.com/isuck to get your hands on this amazing resource. Again, that is bjjmentalmodels.com/isuck. Unlock your conceptual jiu-jitsu game and start winning from the neck up. Do you guys remember the transition from having been like, training at the Hit Squad? Week 1, we had a coach every single day. Mm-hmm. And you would have you had a million training partners. And then when the Hit Squad, I guess it didn't close, when they had the management transition, when Kyle moved to St. Louis, and we all started training in my garage, and we became those guys that were training in the garage.
Yeah, that we made fun of all the time. Yep. We became those guys.
Yeah, and do you remember that? I just remember that transition being like, what do we do? Like, what do we do? Like, we had a certain structure that there was. If you ever had a question, you asked Kyle. And then all of a sudden one day it was just us and Sean Thomas and Mindy and my dad. And then that was about the crew. You know what I mean? That was about everybody. And we would just show up 4 or 5 nights a week and train in the middle of, like, for context for people listening, in the middle of the ghetto. We would just have the door open and be training, and people would be walking by, like, looking in at people in gis, like, oh my gosh, what is going on? There was a lot of fear in my neighborhood at the time. You know, there were real gangsters in my neighborhood, but everyone was more afraid of the guy that was wearing a bathrobe, rolling around with his buddies every night.
My favorite part was your neighbor with the gigantic German Shepherd in the cage, and it would just, like, you'd like be standing out there, like, getting dressed, and you just look up, it's just staring at you.
Yeah.
It's just staring. It's not growling. It's not barking. It's just like, yeah, I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna kill you one day. I was like, dude, why has this guy got this dog locked up in prison out here?
I mean, that was all of my neighbors, honestly.
That's true.
Like, they all had a giant German Shepherd, you know? You got to protect your assets, bro.
Did I ever tell you about, I don't want to hijack the story, but this is a pretty good one. There was one time, obviously, I'm a white guy. The majority of the neighborhood.
You are?
The majority of the neighborhood, African American. So one day I go and I train with your dad, and I was on my motorcycle. So I pull up, I train with your dad, and I'm leaving, and I'm turning out, and at the end of your street, like, the whole other street is blocked off, and there's just a block party going on. And this black dude comes running up to me, he's like, dude, you want to come over here and get a plate? And I was like, yeah. Dude, I hung out there for like 4 hours with these people. I never met them before in my life, so we're like talking bad about the neighborhood. Dude, the best barbecue I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
Randomly got invited to the cookout.
That's pretty
stayed
sweet.
at the cookout, played horseshoes in the street. It was great.
That's honestly,
Fantastic.
there are a lot of great. One time, on a similar note, one time my dog got out, and she was everyone had a German Shepherd. She was a toy poodle. She weighed 8.5 pounds. And she was so small she could just slip through the gate whenever she wanted. But she didn't typically do that. For whatever reason, she decided she was heading out that day. And so I'm freaking out. I'm like, man, I got to find my dog. My parents are going to kill me. What am I going to do? I'm like running all around in her usual hiding spots. She's not there. She's not there. I'm running down the street and I'm asking people like, hey, have you seen my dog? She's, 6 inches tall. Like, have you seen my dog? Nobody's seen her. Nobody's seen her. I run up to this group of guys that are all sitting on their porch smoking the devil's lettuce. And this is in Illinois times when that was completely illegal, when they were putting people in prison for like 10, 15 years for this sort of stuff. And walk up on this group, and one of the guys says, is that your dog? And I was like, that is my dog. She's, as high as a kite, chilled out. I'm carrying her home, and she's like, hey, you have any chips, Dad? But yeah, that was it was a good group of people. They protected my dog.
Yeah.
I
never had any problems in there.
No.
Like, you would see a lot of sketchy activity going on, but they'd pretty much leave you alone.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
You'd see some yelling and fighting in front of houses and
Yeah,
stuff,
you'd
but
see-
you just carried on.
You'd
Went to
see like
practice.
a group of dudes get boxing gloves and box in an
Yeah.
abandoned lot.
That honestly, more people, I've done a lot of cool things in jiu-jitsu. More people come up to me and ask me about the time that my dad and I commentated boxing matches from my kitchen window than basically anything else. I believe that that's not even on Facebook anymore. That got removed because it was illegal fighting or something like
that's
that.
a shame.
But we went, it's like right when they had made Facebook Live. I'm washing dishes, and there was an abandoned house that had basically, instead of a backyard, it was just all concrete. And people would go there and gamble and party and do all kinds of wild stuff. And I would be able to just watch it outside of my kitchen window. And there are groups of like I don't want to say gangs, but there were 2 gangs that were kind of on both sides of the lot. And then there would be 2 guys in the middle put on boxing gloves. And I'm like, washing dishes, like, I think these dudes are about to fight. And like, oh wait, they're putting on gloves. This is sanctioned. Like, okay, sweet. And so my dad and I of course, we're not going to call the police or something like that. We want to watch. And so I pull out my phone, I go Facebook Live, and we start commentating on these boxing matches. There are 4, 5, 6 matches just back to back. These guys have no cardio, man, but they were swinging for the fences. Very little contact too.
Yeah.
A lot of great head movement.
No
a lot of head movement.
No knockouts,
Yeah.
no knockdowns.
Yeah, no knockdowns, no knockouts. Most matches ended by cardio. And it was pretty legendary.
It was.
That was, there was that. There was a time, there were other times that I would go Facebook Live and like people would be playing dice and betting money and stuff. And I'd be like, oh, Facebook wants to see this. They were great. The Madison Chronicles, man, those were great.
Yeah, it was a great environment, especially the training.
Especially to I had a really expensive motorcycle at the time, just parked out there. I can't see it from where we're training. It's just out there. I'm like, well, these guys are probably going to watch it. There's just 2 dudes over there just smoking a blunt, looking at my motorcycle. I was like, well, don't take it, I guess. I got the key.
What a great place to grow up, man.
Yeah, man.
And
You're second generation Madison, aren't you?
I am second generation. My dad grew up in the house that we were at training in the garage.
Really? I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
And so, I think probably when he was 5 or 6, they moved into that house and, moved out when he got older. But when his parents died, he took over the house. And that was, we owned the street of Iowa, the 800 block of Iowa for a very long time. And then there came a point where we started getting pushed out a little bit. Things started to get rougher than they had ever been. And we headed home. Now you drive down that street, there's about 4 houses because every other house has been condemned and knocked down. But there was a time.
Got to the point I had to sell your dad a shotgun.
Yeah, that is true. You did sell my dad a shotgun. And that was about the time where it was time to start looking at moving. It was time to start heading out.
Speaking of the Jiu-Jitsu garage, to get us back on track, it wasn't even really in your yard. That's another thing.
Yeah.
It was in the neighbor's backyard.
It was, so there was a period that we owned both houses because that's just what you do in the hood. Because houses don't cost money. Like, hey, you have $5,000, you can have this house. Like, oh, okay, sweet. And so my dad, being who he is, started another business. So keep in mind, our garage from our house had been converted into a personal training gym. And that was what my dad worked out of for, most of my life. For the first 20 years of my life, my dad worked out of that garage. Then at one point, he bought the house next door. And my mom, my aunt, and a few other people that we knew did massage therapy. And so they were doing massage therapy out of that house. And then that house had a garage too. So when we sold that house, we made a deal with the neighbor of like, hey, we have these mats in this garage already. Can we leave them in here and still train jiu-jitsu? And he was like, oh yeah, you're selling me this house for $1,000. Of course you can still do jiu-jitsu there. And so, that wasn't even our lot.
Yeah, he's like, just don't bother the vicious German Shepherd in this cage and we're chill, dude. Don't worry about it.
I think it was more of like, I think it will scare people if these guys are training in gis, if they're doing, karate in their backyard, in the backyard. Like, I think that will intimidate people. And the truth is it did.
Honestly, with how misunderstood jiu-jitsu was prior in that time, saying that you're going to go in a garage with a bunch of guys and then come out sweaty, he probably didn't want to know what was going on.
Yeah, he was like, you guys do your thing, okay?
He knew what was going on.
Yeah, he knew. He knew. He had cameras. Do you remember how, there was really no heating and no air conditioning in that garage, besides when you would plug a space heater in. Those mats would be as hard as a rock in the winter. And then in the summer, it would be 110, 120 degrees in that all black building with no windows and no doors. It was absolutely miserable.
Because I remember in the heat, you couldn't even catch your breath.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd be like 2 minutes into a round and you'd just be gassing after that.
It was easy to stay lean though, man.
It was.
It was so, you never had to diet. You were needing to be eating more and more calories just to survive because of the training sessions.
You could live off honey buns and be perfectly fine.
This is the ultimate cutting weight environment.
It really was.
Weights, go do 5 rounds in the little Brazil.
Well, and we would train, we would only do live rounds. Yeah. Our training was show up, do 15 rounds in a row, go home.
Yeah.
You guys remember how the mats were 2 different heights and that time that Huff broke his toe?
Never forget.
Yeah, that was me and you were rolling.
Yeah.
And did I try to sweep you or something?
I think so. I probably posted out my leg, my foot, and then I got caught in between the mats. And the next thing you know, my toe was doing a question mark. And yeah, that freaked me out. Like I literally, when I looked down at it, I mean, my initial reaction was punch it.
Yeah.
And so I just started punching it like I was Matt Hughes, ground and pounding. And then, it straightened out on me.
It did.
That freaked me out, though.
Yeah, I remember you punch it. You go, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. You're walking around in a circle. Oh my God. And then you kind of look at it again and you're like, I think I'm good. I think we can finish the round. And I'm like, I don't know, dude. Maybe you should take this round
You
off.
were hesitant.
Yeah, we should take a little break or something, but it's still a legendary place. John Thomas, YouTube famous John Thomas now taught a seminar in the Jiu-Jitsu garage.
I videotaped it.
Yeah, I still have it on my Dropbox somewhere.
Yep, it's me with a Sony Handycam.
Yep. That man, what a great place to train. Don't get me wrong, I don't miss it. There's never a time that I'm like, oh, if we could go back to that. You know?
Gotta admit though, like that probably played a big factor in our jiu-jitsu.
Oh, yeah.
Like in terms of just grittiness, you know what I mean? Doing something maybe you don't even want to do. You know, when it was like 95 degrees outside and you're like, you gotta go train. And it's like, I don't want to do this.
Yep.
This is miserable. You know what I mean? But then obviously at the end of the practice, you'd be like, this was awesome. But yeah, I think it played a big factor later on though, for sure.
It completely changed my game. I only played guard until then, and then everybody started playing spider guard, so then I had to try to pass it for like 2 years straight.
Yeah.
Just no guard for me.
And that was also like at the time we had no instruction. You know what I mean? Like we really didn't. I think I would be able to go to Kyle's like once a week. But besides that, there was zero instruction. It was just like, okay, whatever we could find. There wasn't a lot of YouTube stuff. It was like if we had instructionals that we had bought, whatever were on those instructionals might be what we're working. And then one person would bring in a move and be like, hey, we should try this. This is called a straight ankle lock.
Yeah.
And we're all like, oh my gosh, whoa, where do you learn that stuff? This is crazy. And I mean, we were there for years training in that environment.
Mm-hmm. We had to have done something right because we all still train. I think everybody who was in that garage still trains.
The only other person who I don't think I mentioned, Josh Vivian, who's a black belt in California now.
Yeah, I was about to say Viv.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so that's when you think about it, that really is, out of everybody named, we're all black belts. Mindy's a black belt. Sean Thomas is still he just got his purple belt. He was a 12-year blue belt, but still trained.
He made it though.
He did.
Well, he stopped and then came back. Mm-hmm. Maybe it was because we just, beat the absolute hell out of each other in there all the time.
Yeah, that could be it. That could be it. But that really is, when you look back to, there really wasn't, we were figuring out training method, and that was like, that wasn't something that was ever talked about. Now there's all these different things that people talk about, like, oh, you do the ecological approach, or you drill, or you do this or that. We literally, drilling was like becoming a thing then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we were like on the forefront by being like, hey, maybe we should drill this move a bunch of times and then try to implement it. And when you see that, like, it's so cool to know that we went through all the different phases that there were in jiu-jitsu and still were able to keep training.
If you think about it too, like during that time period, so we were like, towards the end of blue, purple belt era, so like during that time, it's figuring out what your game is, right? And so and we were basically, without instruction, we're doing a lot of innovative things, or, like it was like more free to explore, I guess. And so I really find it kind of helped us really escalate our games to figure out what exactly that is. You know what I mean? We weren't basically like trying to copy and paste. It was, okay, well, I kind of found something cool on YouTube. This is kind of working during live rolls. Let's see if there's something there and kind of alter it from there. Yeah. It's almost perfect timing.
It really, and for you, like, that's when you started doing straight ankle locks.
Yeah.
Like your first straight ankle locks. I remember you hit one on me and I was like, holy smokes, I've been in a million straight ankle locks and they never work at all. And my foot almost exploded there. Like what just happened, you know? And I remember like that was normal that we would find something new that worked and then we would all start trying it, you know?
Yeah.
It was a really cool time, for sure. We need to get back to that. We need to go buy that house in Madison.
I think it's probably pretty easy to buy. I don't think
If we all pooled our money, we could get it for sure. Probably like $1,200.
I'm bringing about negative 75 grand to the party. So I don't know what you guys are bringing into the pool, but yeah, I think you might want to go without me on that one. Yeah. Yeah, I think that, you know, it's funny. Like you don't realize what phase you're in of life until after it, you know, and just one being pretty carefree at that time, you know, like not having a real job or a family and just training jiu-jitsu because it's fun, you know, and just training jiu-jitsu because you love it. And it just being this way of life that was like, yeah, this is what we do. We're jiu-jitsu people. Yeah. And, you know, it's so cool because not only that mentality no doubt has translated to what HeadnodHQ is now. You know, we literally, I mean, when things ended at the Jiu-Jitsu garage, it was because they started at the Blue Room at HeadnodHQ.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When you think about that transition of going from like, okay, it's just us, we just show up and train live every night, to like, hey, now there are other people and they have to be taught how to do jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. That is a huge transition.
Yeah, yeah.
I think like, you know, just the original days of like, okay, and I mean, it was pretty typical of like, all right, there's this little apartment. We're going to knock out all the walls and we're going to put some mats down and we're going to do jiu-jitsu here. And for us, it was kind of like, you know, it was like the promised land at this point.
An upgrade for
yeah,
sure.
comparatively.
Yeah.
There was twice as much mat space. There was, you know, a bathroom, a shower. Mm-hmm. You know, it was a great place, you know?
Yeah.
Do you guys ever miss the Blue Room at all, the original HeadnodHQ?
I think if you ask anybody who started at the Blue Room, everybody's going to miss it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I kind of miss it, but only because the mats were so much more comfortable. Those wrestling mats were so cozy.
They were nice and soft. Mm-hmm. But you would break toes on those mats worse than any other mats because they were too soft.
Yeah.
Don't put your feet on the ground, dude. Play guard.
That's genius.
You can play guard and never touch the ground. Everyone knows that.
Yeah. I mean, both of you guys are big toe injury guys, to be honest, though. So
my feet are terrible looking.
And you've got to assume that it's because of the mats that I purchased that your guys' toes are destroyed.
You're the reason I have bunions.
Yeah.
Both of my pinky toes aren't attached by any tendons.
Yeah. Yeah.
They just flop, dude.
Yeah.
Like it's outrageous.
That's part of it. Sacrifice you had to make, you know?
I'd live it all again to have those mats back.
Would you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, dude, I did not. Oh. I don't miss those mats very much at all. You know, like I think if I think about things that I missed in the Blue Room, this isn't a good thing, really, but it's the group of people we had. That was the wildest group of people maybe ever assembled to do jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean? That was like the worst version of the Avengers that you could. That was like if you made the Avengers, but you did one of those spoof comedy movies on them, like a scary movie version of the Avengers. That was the crew that we had training in the Blue Room.
Yeah. Could have done a reality show for sure.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
Easily.
But there was a lot of illicit crime that was happening in
the gym.
Yeah, that would have probably got that show canceled relatively quickly.
Yeah.
We just wear ski masks.
That's
Nobody
genius.
knows.
Yeah, no one would have any idea who we were then. Do you guys think about any periods of your jiu-jitsu training that were like, that was my favorite period?
I have a few. Go ahead, Huff.
I mean, honestly, I just look back at probably the Hit Squad days. Mm-hmm. You know, that was just fun. I mean, we were so young, you know what I'm saying? And it was like, during that time period, I mean, you could go as hard as you wanted to, you know what I mean? And it was just like you said, no responsibilities. You know, you would ditch class, you would go in, train. eat like crap afterwards. And it was just a great lifestyle. You know what I mean? And even that environment too, like it was just gritty, and and we kind of carried that then onto the garage. And so
For sure into the blue room.
yeah, and then for sure into the blue room. Yeah. But I will say though too, the blue room was fun because a lot of our higher belts that we have now, they walked into the blue room as brand new guys, never doing jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean? Like Dylan not knowing a thing. You know what I'm saying? Like those guys not knowing a single thing and working with them and basically being able to toy with them. And then now to seeing where they're at now, I mean, it's pretty impressive. You know what I mean? Where it's like, I could do literally what I want to you. I mean, I could tap you out as many times as I want. And then now you go with guys who were part of that blue room. And now it's like, well, damn, now I got to play my A game on you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's completely different. Yeah, it sucks, but it's also like a pretty cool thing to witness, you know what I mean, as well, when you're seeing that progression, with your own eyes.
And a lot of guys in a short period of time, in jiu-jitsu terms, have gotten good that started back then. Because, like, I guess now we're at 5 years ago was the transition of from one gym to the current head nod that we're at. So then I think we would have been at the blue room for 4 years. And so, yeah, during that time, so many people that are higher belts now.
Well, I remember being able to, like, beat up Richie and bring him in side control. Now, forget that.
Yeah.
Like,
Now he's a black belt.
now he's a
That's
black
crazy.
belt. Yeah, and a really good black belt. Yeah.
Worst person to mention is Jeff started in the blue room.
I know. I know.
And now he still sucks and is trash, and I hate him. But sometimes he's pretty tough.
I always love it too. There's always it was like advertising that you would throw out there on Facebook that would show up, and it was a video of me beating up 13-year-old Jeff and just putting a nasty neck crank and stuff on him, and he's just like flailing.
He deserved it.
I remember one time, I think it would have been me and you driving to Chicago, where you were like dead serious, and you're like, dude, I really can't stand that little kid, Jeff. You're like, he really just makes me so mad. I can't stand that kid.
He was, man. He was a lot. He really was.
He really.
He was such a little punk because,
He still is a little
he
punk.
would show up. He would show up and be like, "Huff, I saw your wife on Facebook." I'm like, dude, I'm gonna punch you in the face.
And it was one of those, like, the beatings that he took because of his mouth made him so tough.
He knew exactly what he was doing.
Yeah.
He knew exactly. He's like, I'm going to talk crap. They're going to beat me up, and I'm just going to become this amazing monster.
Yeah,
And
it's
it
his
happened.
origin story.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now, just like we said, what happens to the blue belt teen is they become the villain eventually.
Yep.
And now he is the villain of Head Nod.
Yeah.
There is we recorded the Jiu-Jitsu games, and it's the Jiu-Jitsu's first ever game show. Bryce has been editing it for like 1,000 hours at this point, but eventually it's going to come out. But in the kind of like the confessional part, we ask every single person, like, hey, if you could get anybody out first, or like, who do you not want to win these games? And everybody said, Jeff.
Jeff, yeah.
Jeff, no doubt, Jeff. Like, if you, who do you hate most, Jeff? I was like, okay, all right, sounds good.
See, I would always hate too because so Jeff was obviously he was in high school and everything, and so he was learning like the geography of where a place was, like some random little city in Europe, right? And then he would come and he would try to quiz me on that stuff. I'm like, dude, I don't remember that. He'd be like, you're stupid, you're dumb. I'm like, dude, I'm going to kill you now.
I remember that era of Jeff. That was very strange.
Yeah.
I remember the quizzes. He did do that shit a lot.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah.
I forgot that until just now. Because, he'd do the same thing. He'd be like, where's Istanbul? I'm like, I don't know, dude. Turkey? Well, I have no idea.
He'd be like, you're an idiot, man.
Stupid.
Yeah.
There were times that Hebner would beat him up in a way that I was like, hey, Hebner, we're going to have to call somebody if you beat this kid up any worse than this. And Jeff would be with Hebner at 270 pounds going hard on him. He would be in bottom mount, like sat on, arms completely above his head, and then twisted to the other side. Like each arm passed to the other side of his body. And he would be flipping Hebner off because he couldn't talk in that. And Hebner would be looking up at me like, if I beat him up any worse, he'll be dead. Like I can't I don't know what I can do here.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, none of us do.
He's Deadpool.
Yeah.
Should have all choked him unconscious. We should have got it in while we could. Just choked him unconscious over and over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can still feel the room when I go with Jeff. Everybody stops and watches because they're like, I just want to see him suffer.
Yeah.
I just want to see him. I beat him up at Revive the other day, and I swear I almost got a standing ovation. I almost had people cheering for me. And I'm like a black belt with 50 pounds on him.
Yeah.
And that's how much they hate him still, is they're like, please pressure this kid to death. Tap him with pressure, please. This is all we want.
I always just felt bad because really, for me, he's kind of a kindred spirit. Like,
Yeah.
He just, like, I saw him and I was like, that's just me. Like,
Yeah.
this kid's just going to talk shit to everybody. He's going to be the villain that replaces me whenever I get old. And it happened.
Yeah.
So it worked out for me.
That's-
Sorry for everybody else.
That's always the worst too, is because you're like, the most annoying things that he does are the things that you go, I think I taught him that.
Where'd he learn that?
Yeah, I think he learned that from me.
Yeah.
Oh,
I just
Why,
hope
why is he having me in a heel hook and he's singing to me? Who else does that? Oh, no. He got that from me. I did that to him.
I just hope my child grows up to be like a Jeff, but then to pick on Jeff.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly the way he did with
That's
us.
the circle of life,
Yeah,
man.
Yeah, and he's just putting him in gnarly heel hooks.
You gotta do like the Marv Marinovich thing where you're just like working with the kid from the moment he's born just to target Jeff.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I think the funniest troll of all time was Jeff was starting to get good, but he still didn't know stuff yet. But he was, just as obnoxious. And Alex Nantel convinced him. He asked Alex, he said, hey, I am getting stuck in leg locks a lot. And Alex goes, oh, dude, leg lock defense is really easy. He said, if you're in a straight ankle lock, you just point your toes. And he said, but if you're in a heel hook, you pull your toes back to your knee. And then Alex would proceed with this terrible advice to just ankle lock him and heel hook him over and over. And it was like Alex had moved away before Jeff asked me about it. I'm like, no, it's the opposite. And he's like, what? Oh yeah, dude, he's like, no wonder he was leg locking me over and over again. Yeah. But that was a great troll.
That is great.
Solid. And it couldn't happen to a better guy.
Could. Did you have any thoughts on prime times of training or favorite times of training?
I just feel like it's all been pretty good. Looking back on it, it's just kind of just goes in stages. Like the hit squad was awesome, just starting out. I was pretty quiet kid, pretty reserved. I made a lot of friends. I was able to learn jiu-jitsu. I was pretty good at it. And then moving into the garage, I feel like that's where I really cut my teeth. And I was already a pretty established competitor and stuff, but I feel I don't know, it made me a lot more gritty and it made me just play a completely different game. So it changed everything. Then going into the blue room, I'd taken a lot of time off training consistently. I would always train. It would be once every 3 months though. So going back to the blue room was whenever I really kicked it back up. And I was like, okay, well, if we're going to do this, because I was still a blue belt. I was like, if we're going to do this, we got to do it now. I'm not getting any younger. So that journey from there to black belt was really cool. And then I competed again at purple belt. That was pretty neat. And then now at black belt and being in this new gym, I was able to do a super fight. That was pretty cool. Training for that was probably the best shape I'd ever been in my life. So I don't know, it's all pretty cool. Whenever you looking back at it all now, it's all been pretty awesome, really.
And you get as you train for a while, I think it's just as you grow up, you do get when people say, it's not about the results or it's not about, where you're at now, it's about the journey. As you look back, you can really see that and go, man, I do get that. The friendships that you build training jiu-jitsu, any of us could quit jiu-jitsu today and still have so many friendships built because of jiu-jitsu, and people that would message us once a month and be like, hey man, I still miss you. I would love if you trained until we died. They would do that, and having friendships like that and getting to grow that way, I think is one of the beautiful things about jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. It's just whenever you do something for so long, 16 years or whatever, and training consistently, every week for the last 10 years, you're going to make a lot of memories doing that stuff.
Yeah.
Some of them aren't always great. Like whenever I accidentally kicked Huff in the nuts and I thought he was gonna die, or the
dude.
time that Huff had
Toughened
me an
him
ankle
up.
lock and it popped my ankle so loud we both were like, "Was that a soda can? We good? You all right?" So sometimes you're gonna hurt each other. Sometimes you're gonna have bad memories. But looking back on it, man, like just the whole thing was pretty awesome.
I mean, it's pretty amazing. I mean, when you think back on it, like when we were younger at the hit squad, and then think about like where we're at now. Like here we are. We're older men now. We're doing a podcast. We're black belts.
Yeah.
We're helping other people. Like it's pretty surreal when you think about it. And it doesn't even seem like it was that long ago.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Well, you think most people, like whenever they were our age, when we started, they're like playing baseball in high school and stuff. And then they stop, they get fat, they hate their kids and make them play baseball. They suck, they beat them, they go to jail. Here we are. Instead, we didn't take that path. We can keep doing it, and then you can get your kids involved in it and then not hate them. And, you know, you can abuse them on the mat.
I like that. Yeah, that's court sanctioned. I remember growing up and my dad having played softball for forever, and we would walk the park and see somebody that he used to play softball with, and they would be like, "Yeah, your dad could hit the ball a quarter mile," you know, and it was like these glory days for these guys. And it was a long time until I made that connection of like, oh, that's what I'm living right now. You know, that's what I'm getting to do right now, is to have these friendships and have these relationships that, you know, one day my son will, you know, see Justin Kichler walking the park and, you know, like, oh yeah, he just got out of jail, you know, that's Justin. We used to train jiu-jitsu together all the time. And, you know, it'd be like, oh yeah, that guy had the craziest triangle, you know, like that guy, you know, and getting to share that with my son too, I think it would be really cool too, you know?
Oh yeah.
I like how in this scenario I go to jail. That's great.
No, I didn't. At least I said jail and not prison, you know? So
Let's be real. If it's going to be one or the other, it's going to be prison.
that's probably true. That's probably true. I'm just joking. If you haven't gone yet, I don't see you going.
There's always time.
That's true. That's very true.
It's just a matter of evidence.
That definitely is probably like one of my top goals now is longevity, but then having it to where like my son is 16 years old and we're able to train and he's able to see dad out there still busting his ass, doing everything he can. I'm obviously not going to be as good anymore, but still seeing him out there, you know what I mean, giving everything he's got and everything, and then, you know, still trying to beat him up. You know what I'm saying? And then obviously not letting him win at all. You know, that's not going to happen until the day he does, and it's going to be like, you know, pretty cool moment. But yeah, that's kind of like what I'm envisioning now. That's pretty much my top goal at this point, is to like longevity, stick with it so that he can witness that stuff.
And yeah, it's funny. You just in the moment, it's about whatever, being a great competitor. It's about winning this next tournament. It's about, you know, whatever it is about. But at the end of the day, it starts to just become about like, man, this is a beautiful thing that I get to do. I'm so lucky that I've gotten to do it for so long. I want to share it, you know, and I want to share it with people that are important to me.
Yeah, yeah.
Anything you guys want to say to finish?
No.
Sweet. Man, thank you guys both for being on. I love that we've gotten to be friends for so long. That being said, I quit and I'm never coming back.
Same, dude. Same. Please. Someone make it okay to quit, please.
Yeah, at this point, we're just all sitting here trying to outlast each other.
I'm telling
Secretly, Josh has held us hostage this entire time. We really have not been wanting to train all these years.
Yep.
you, this is a cult. Not the kind with a harem of 15 women.
Yeah, just guys.
Just a regular one.
Just dudes. It's a dude cult.
Yeah.
And on that note, thank you guys for being on the podcast.
Thank you, man.
Thanks, man.